What is up, you guys? Pete DiCarlo here, and today I'm going to teach you how I brought my credit score from a 600 to a 750 in only 3 months. Let's get into it. Now, this is not clickbait. I actually brought my credit score from a 600 to a 750 in a very short amount of time. Now, I'm going to tell you from the bat how I did it, and that is by being an authorized user on other people's credit cards. Now, I'll get into that later in the video of exactly how I did that. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't have a trusted family member or a friend that you can become an authorized user on their account, I'm still going to give you some great tips on how to fix and raise your credit score in a pretty short amount of time. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and let's get started. Now, the first piece of advice for you to fix your credit score and to raise your credit score is obviously pay off all of your debt. Now, if you're somebody who has defaulted on a loan before or you're running late on your payments, obviously this is going to have a huge impact on your credit because you're going to have derogatory marks and your credit card utilization is going to be extremely high. Now, even if you keep up to date with all of your payments all of the time, you still might have a high credit utilization rate. This is essentially if you take the max amount of credit that you are given, say it's $100,000, and you currently are carrying a balance of $20,000 on that credit account. Well, you have a credit utilization rate of 20%. 20% or higher is not a good credit utilization rate. Even if you're paying your balances every single month and you've never gotten a derogatory mark or a late fee, it's still not going to show up well for other credit card companies or lenders because you look like you leverage way too much unhealthy debt at a time. So my first tip would be just to pay off anything that you have that is impacting your credit. My second tip to boost your credit or just start building credit in general is to get a secured credit card. What a secured credit card is essentially a debit card from a bank, but it's considered a credit card and it does go on your credit report. Say you bank with Wells Fargo. Go in one day with, $500 to $1,000, tell one of the people working there that you want to open a secured credit card. Essentially what you'll do is give the bank $500 to $1,000. They will give you a credit card with a limit of whatever amount you gave them. So this way you can't just go out and run the credit card up as high as it can possibly go and then the bank gets screwed. This isn't going to make leaps and bounds for your credit, but if you're somebody who wants to just establish credit, say you're a college student or you're just turned 18 and you want to start building credit right now, this is the best way to do it. My third advice for building/fixing your credit is just to apply for a starter credit card. Now, in the tier ranking of credit cards, I'm not going to go over it all right now, but essentially you have secured credit card, a starter credit card, then you have, like a medium credit card, which would be like a Chase Freedom Unlimited or, like a Citi Double Cash. And then on like the highest, you have like the Chase Sapphire Reserve and bigger cards up there. Those higher cards are just harder to get because they want to make sure that you have longer credit history, a higher net worth, and that you're more trusted as an individual to be lended to. Now, let's say that you have a credit score of like 650 to 700 and you've had credit for a bit, but you may have had like 1 or 2 delinquent payments and your credit history is not perfect. Now, a starter credit card that I would recommend applying for is something like the Capital One Platinum or just any Credit One bank card. They will usually just accept relatively anybody. And this is good for you because it will help you start building your credit. For me, I didn't start my credit journey till I was 28. When I was young and dumb, I knew that if I got a credit card, I would just blow all of the money on it. I would ruin my credit. And so I decided to wait until I felt like I was mature enough to accept the risk and responsibility of having a credit card. And so when I opened my first credit account only 2 years ago, my first card was the Capital One Platinum card. So the interest rates on these cards are extremely high, usually 25, 26%, which I think is like the legal limit for a bank to give you as an interest rate. It's essentially like loan sharking, but they're taking a lot of risks because if you're applying for this card, like I said, you probably don't have the best credit. But it's a great way to start, and I would highly advise that if you're having trouble building or fixing your credit to apply for one of these cards. Now, real quick, YouTube disclaimer, I'm not certified in any way. This is what has worked for me, and I will actually show you like my Credit Karma and myfico.com to show you what I actually did. This is what worked for me. I'm not telling you to do this. If you want to, do it at your own risk. So now we're going to get into the bread and butter of this video and exactly how I did bring my credit score from a 600 to a 750 in 3 months. And this is by becoming an authorized user on somebody else's credit account. Now, before we get into this, I want you to understand the risk that you are bringing on if you take somebody on your account and they become an authorized user on your account. Because let's say, since we're friends, you come to me and you say, Pete, you have a good credit score, you have a lot of credit accounts that are like 10, 11 years old, you've never been delinquent, I want to become an authorized user on your account. And because we're friends through YouTube, I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, I'll add you onto my card. If you are added onto one of my credit cards, they will mail you a card. If you blow tons of money, I'm on the line for that. So that is one risk that I, as the account holder, am assuming by making you an authorized user. On the flip side, let's say you have amazing credit, I don't have really good credit. And I say, hey, YouTube friend, you have great credit. Can you put me on 3 or 4 of your accounts? It'll really help bring my credit score up. I'm trying to get a house in a couple months. If you add me as an authorized user onto your credit account and you go out and you blow a ton of money and you can't pay for any of the debts that you've accumulated, I'm screwed too because I'm an authorized user on your account. So it's reflected both ways. Both people can get screwed if you don't 100% trust the other individual. I would not recommend doing this unless they are like a family member or somebody where, like, not saying you're going to come after them, but they're not going to screw you up. That's why I've only ever done this with spouses that I really trust and family members. Because if something happens, they know I'm coming for them. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to hit a family member or a woman. That's messed up. I'll break down exactly what happens when you become an authorized user. And we'll use the example again of that I have good credit and you guys want to get on my account. So say I have a Capital One credit card and it's got a $10,000 limit. I've had the card for 10 years, right? I've never missed a payment. I have no money. I have no balances on it, nothing. It's a perfect standing account. So once I add you, what Chase will do is send you a card with your name on it with the same account as mine. What's going to end up happening there is that they are going to send my entire account record just for that account, just for that card account. What they're going to do is send all of those to the credit bureaus. And now that is going to come up as your credit history. And it's funny because I originally was added to my grandfather's account. Now you got to realize my grandfather was with American Express for 37 years. At the time of me opening my first credit account, I was only 28. So if you looked at my credit history, I have 32 years of credit history, but I've only been alive for 28. Some lenders might ask you questions about, like, how are you 18 years old, but you have 40 years of credit history. Now I want to show you my Credit Karma account and show you some things that affect your credit in the short and the long term, and some things that you should work on and avoid. So let's go into the computer. Guys, we are at the computer. What you're looking at right now is Credit Karma. So I recommend every single person should get a Credit Karma account. It is 100% free. You don't pay anything. The only way they make their money is just by referring different credit cards to you. As far as accuracy, it's pretty decent. It's not as good as some. I also have my FICO. That is way more accurate, but it's like $30-something a month. But this is great for your average person who just wants to make sure their credit accounts are healthy and know what their score is each and every week. So on this main area, you're going to see this is TransUnion and this is Equifax. Now, the one thing I'll say about accuracy as far as Credit Karma is considered is that they're updated pretty. Some of the stuff's kind of slow. Like if I go into my accounts, I have a Nordstrom account that I paid off about a week ago, but it still says I have $302 on there. So some of this stuff is kind of slow, but when you open this up, this is going to be your dashboard. Now, you're going to have, if we go to TransUnion, so what you're going to see are these 6 things right here. This is your payment history, your credit card usage, your derogatory marks, hard inquiries, total accounts, and credit age. Now, you remember earlier when I said I had 30 years of credit, but I was only 28 years old? The reason this says 3 years and 2 months is number 1, because that's the average age of all of my open accounts. And number 2 is because the goal is that, say you don't have credit or you have bad credit and you are put on somebody's credit account as an authorized user. The goal, in my opinion, is not to be on their account for forever. Once you have gained enough credit and have other accounts under your name, you should be removed as an authorized user just to protect yourself and the other person. But one thing to remember is that if you close a credit account on your own, under your own name or under someone else's name, it does remove all of that credit history. But cool thing about Credit Karma is that it kind of gives you what impact these have. So high impact is your payment history. Obviously 100%. Pay your bills. It's pretty self-explanatory. The next one is credit card usage. This has a ton, or also what's called utilization. This has a ton of impact. So like I was saying, mine is 2%. 20%, I don't ever recommend going above 20% utilization rate. Derogatory marks obviously has a high impact. If you don't pay your bills, or you have a tax lien against you, or a bankruptcy, you're going to have a derogatory mark. Pretty low impact is hard inquiries. That's just essentially like if you apply for a new credit card, or if you want to get a mortgage or something and somebody looks at your credit. That's called a hard inquiry. And side note, if you check your own credit, that's a softer inquiry. That doesn't really matter. Another low impact is your accounts. You can see here, like I have 9. I don't want my internet slow. I have 9, but they consider good to be 11 to 20. And now this doesn't mean that you just, I need 11 accounts, I'm going to go apply to 11 credit cards. Do not do that. I recommend at most applying to 5 credit cards in 24 months. It's called the 5 in 24 rule. Building credit and having a good credit account takes time. It's like a proper investment. It's not something you're just going to do, over the course of a month. And yes, in the beginning of the video, I did say that I brought my credit score up from a 600 to a 750 in 3 months. And you can do that, but the main goal is to be an authorized user, build/fix your credit, and then remove them once you can do it on your own, and then credit age. So, these are the main things to look at. Another thing that I like to use is myfico.com. This is a paid website. I think it's like $35 a month. Every single month you get a full FICO report. And also what makes your FICO score, more accurate is that it's updated a lot more. And so you can actually see that my FICO says that my current scores are 774, 770, 76, or 765, which is actually higher than what my Credit Karma says. And what happens sometimes, unfortunately, for a lot of people is they'll apply for a loan and they're like, well, my Credit Karma account says that I have a 750, but when they get denied for a loan, or even say they get accepted for the loan, and it comes back on the credit report that their FICO is a 710 or 715, always go by FICO, especially if you're going to go get another credit card or, apply for a loan. Pay the money, pull your FICO score. It's good to know before you apply to know what your real score is. So this is something that if you want to pay, you can, use it. I think it's worth it, especially if you're going to be applying for a lot of different loans in the future. So they have kind of the same thing, as Credit Karma has. Same little setup here, payment history, amount of debt you have. And another thing I didn't touch earlier was credit mix. So what a lot of creditors like to see is a good mix of credit, credit accounts. So maybe you have a car loan that's in good standing. You have a mortgage on a property that's in good standing. You have, I'm not about it, but let's say you have student loan debts that are in good standing, and let's say that you have normal credit card accounts that are in good standing. People like to see that you're responsible with different credit accounts and different types of accounts. So before we end the video, I do want to go back to Credit Karma and show you one last thing. You go up to accounts. This will show you what accounts you have, what accounts are open, what accounts are yours entirely, and what accounts you have that you're an authorized user on. So as you can see, total open balance is $116,552, and that is because I do have a loan on a property here. So as you can see, we have this Nordstrom account. This is mine. Goldman Sachs account, that's mine. Capital One, that's mine. That's mine. Kohl's is mine. Old Navy. This was one that my girlfriend put me on. I'm still on it because that card has been open for almost 10 years. I wanted to get off of my grandfather's account. God forbid, in case he died or, something happened. Plus, he didn't really feel too comfortable. So I got off of that account and I was like, okay, well, I'll be an authorized user on this account. And then these two, one JP Morgan is mine and one JP Morgan is also my father's because, God forbid if something happens, he gets sick, he's ill, I have to be in charge of his finances. So if you go to this account section and you become an authorized user on somebody's account, this is where it will come up and this is where you will see it. So this is very powerful stuff for growing and fixing your credit score. But do remember that there are plenty of drawbacks to it. There's a lot of bad things that can happen if you do it with somebody that you do not trust. And I'll end the video by saying this. If somebody wants to be put on your account, I don't recommend it. As much as it will help that person, it can really, really, really screw you. You have to make sure that you trust this person literally with your life, with your financial life, because they can ruin the next 10, 20, 30 years for you, depending on the damage that happens. So take it with a grain of salt. Make sure that if you're going to do it with somebody that you know will not screw you. But that is how I raised my credit score from a 600 to a 750 in 3 months. I hope these tips help you. I really want to see you guys comment down below in the next couple months once you fixed and improved your credit scores. Let me know if you guys have any other questions on credit, on investing. And until next time, I will see you.